What if Palpatine died during Order 66? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Palpatine is dead, the Sith Lord who orchestrated everything, killed in his own office by Anakin Skywalker. But Order 66 is already active. Clones are turning on Jedi across the galaxy. The purge has begun, and the man who started it all, the puppet master pulling every string, just died before he could finish his grand plan. The galaxy is about to descend into chaos unlike anything it's ever seen. No Empire, no Vader, no Death Star, just a massive power vacuum and a war that suddenly has no real purpose. This is the moment everything changes. Anakin stands over Palpatine's body, his lightsaber still ignited, his hands shaking. Behind him, Mace Windu struggles to his feet, burned and broken from Sith lightning. The Jedi Master stares in disbelief at what just happened. Skywalker, what have you done? What I should have done from the beginning. Anakin's voice is steady despite the enormity of his choice. He was using me, using all of us. The visions of Padme dying, they were lies. Dark side manipulation to turn me into his apprentice. Across the galaxy, the hologram flickers to life on 1,000 worlds. Clone commanders receive the transmission simultaneously. Execute Order 66. The words that will kill the Jedi Order. On Kashyyyk, Commander Gree raises his weapon at Yoda. On Utapau, Commander Cody fires at Obi-Wan. On Felucia, Aayla Secura falls in a hail of blaster fire. On Migito, Ki-Adi-Mundi is cut down by his own troops. The Jedi Purge begins. But something is different this time. Something is wrong. On Coruscant, in the Chancellor's office, the scene plays out differently than it should. Mace Windu lies on the floor, his body broken from Sith lightning, his face contorted in pain. His purple lightsaber has rolled away, deactivated, useless. Anakin Skywalker stands at the precipice of his greatest choice, his own blue blade ignited and humming, casting dancing shadows across the elegant office. His heart pounds in his chest, torn between everything he's been taught and everything he fears. Palpatine turns to face him, those terrible yellow eyes gleaming with triumph, beneath a hood that shadows most of his withered features. The dark side radiates from him like heat from a furnace, oppressive and overwhelming. He is certain, absolutely certain, that his manipulation has worked perfectly. Years of careful grooming, of playing the mentor, of feeding Anakin's fears and stoking his insecurities, all leading to this moment. The young Jedi will strike down Mace Windu. He will pledge himself to the dark side. He will become Darth Vader. The weapon Sidious has been forging since the boy was 9 years old. Good, Anakin, good. Kill him. Kill him now. Palpatine's voice drips with dark satisfaction. He can already feel the boy's anger, his fear for Padme, his resentment toward the Jedi Council. All of it swirls together, a perfect storm of emotion ready to be harvested. But as Palpatine reaches out through the Force to taste Anakin's decision, to feel the delicious moment when the boy crosses the line he can never uncross, something unexpected happens. The taste is wrong, not the hot rush of rage and hate he expects, but something colder, something like clarity. Anakin's mind races through the past few days, the past few hours, the past few minutes. Palpatine's voice in his quarters, whispering about Darth Plagueis the Wise, about the power to save Padme from death. The revelation that the kindly Chancellor, his mentor, his friend, was the Sith Lord the Jedi had been hunting for years. The manipulation, the lies, the way Palpatine knew exactly what to say, exactly how to push him toward darkness. And then he thinks of Padme, not the vision of her dying that Palpatine planted in his mind, feeding it night after night until it consumed him, but the real Padme, her strength, her wisdom, her belief in democracy, in justice, in doing what's right, even when it's hard. What would she want him to do? What would she think if she saw him now, about to murder a Jedi Master to save her life through Sith teachings? The answer comes to him with perfect clarity. She would hate it. She would hate him for it. Anakin's blade moves, but not toward Mace Windu. In one swift, decisive motion, guided by instinct and the Force itself, the Chosen One pivots and drives his lightsaber through Palpatine's chest. The blue blade punches through robes, through flesh, through the dark heart that has poisoned the galaxy for decades. Palpatine's eyes widen in shock and utter disbelief. His mouth opens, but no words come out. Only a gasping wheeze. Impossible, his expression seems to say. You were supposed to be mine. I shaped you. I made you. I know what you did, Anakin says, his voice steady, despite the enormity of what he's just done. The visions, the fear, all of it was you, manipulating me. But I see clearly now. I am saving Padme. I'm saving her from you. Palpatine tries to unleash his lightning, tries to call upon the vast reservoir of dark side power that has sustained him through decades of scheming and plotting. But his power fails him. The wound is too severe, piercing vital organs, disrupting his connection to the Force. The betrayal is too complete, too unexpected. He had been so certain of victory, so assured of his control, that he never prepared for this possibility. He collapses to the floor, his yellow eyes fading slowly back to their natural blue. Just for a moment, as if the human Palpatine once was, surfaces one final time before drowning forever. Then the life leaves them entirely. Darth Sidious, Dark Lord of the Sith, architect of the Clone Wars, destroyer of the Jedi Order, lies dead in his own office, killed by the apprentice he sought to claim. Anakin stands over the body, breathing heavily, his lightsaber still ignited and humming in his hand. The reality of what he's just done crashes over him like a wave. He killed the Chancellor, the leader of the Republic, but also the Sith Lord, the enemy, the manipulator who would have turned him into a monster. Behind him, Mace Windu struggles to his feet, one hand clutching his wounded side where the lightning burned through his robes and seared his flesh. His face is a mask of pain and confusion. "Skywalker," he gasps. "What have you done?" Anakin turns to face him, and Mace sees something in the young Jedi's eyes he's never seen before. Not the reckless confidence, not the barely contained anger, but a kind of terrible certainty. "What I should have done from the beginning, Master Windu. He was using me, using all of us. The visions he showed me of Padme dying, they were lies. Dark side manipulation. All of it was to turn me, to make me his apprentice. Mace can barely process what he's witnessing. The revelation that Chancellor Palpatine, the man who has led the Republic through its darkest war, was the Sith Lord they'd been hunting, that he orchestrated everything, the Trade Federation blockade, the creation of the clone army, the separatist movement, all of it. And now that Sith Lord lies dead at Anakin Skywalker's feet. Are you certain of this? Mace's voice is weak, pained. How can you be sure? Because he told me himself. He revealed his identity, tried to turn me. He's been grooming me for years, Master. Playing the mentor, the friend, the father figure I never had. Also, he could use me. Anakin deactivates his lightsaber, the sudden silence in the office almost deafening. But I chose differently. I chose the Jedi. I chose Padme. I chose the light. Across the galaxy, Order 66 continues its terrible work, ignorant of the seismic shift that has just occurred on Coruscant. On Kashyyyk, the lush Wookiee homeworld, clone troopers under Commander Gree's command turn their weapons on Yoda. The ancient Jedi Master is walking alongside Wookiee chieftains, discussing strategy for defending the planet against separatist forces, when he feels a disturbance in the Force. It's not just the immediate danger of the blasters being raised behind him. It's something far more profound. The massive dark side presence that has clouded the Force for years, that has made the future impossible to see, that has hung over the galaxy like a shroud, suddenly vanishes, like a candle being snuffed out, like a storm breaking. Something has changed, Yoda thinks, even as he ignites his lightsaber and deflects the first volley of blaster fire with preternatural speed. His green blade becomes a blur, sending the bolts back at the clones with perfect precision. But he doesn't kill them. Even now, even as they betray him, he cannot bring himself to kill the soldiers he has fought beside for 3 years. Instead, Yoda leaps high into the Kashyyyk canopy, using the Force to enhance his jump far beyond what his small frame should allow. He disappears into the massive Roshia trees, his mind racing to understand what has happened. The clones continue to fire, but he's already gone, vanishing into the forest with the help of the Wookiees, who immediately recognize the betrayal for what it is. On Utapau, in the massive sinkhole city where General Grievous met his end only hours before, Obi-Wan Kenobi stands on a landing platform, preparing to return his borrowed Varactyl to the Utapauan authorities. He's in good spirits, having finally ended the Separatist general's reign of terror. The war feels like it might actually be ending. Then he feels it too. Not as clearly as Yoda, perhaps, but unmistakable nonetheless. A shift in the Force, like the sudden silence after a long, loud noise. And in that moment of distraction, Commander Cody, his trusted second-in-command, receives the transmission. Execute Order 66. Cody's face goes blank behind his helmet. His body moves automatically, raising his blaster rifle. Target acquired. He fires, the bolt catching Obi-Wan in the chest and sending him tumbling off the platform, falling hundreds of meters into the sinkhole's depths. But Obi-Wan Kenobi is not so easily killed. As he falls, stunned but conscious, he reaches out with the Force, grabbing onto a support beam jutting from the sinkhole wall. The impact nearly tears his arm from its socket, but he holds on, gasping, his mind reeling. Cody shot him. Cody, who has fought beside him through countless battles. Something is terribly wrong. Then he feels it. A touch in the Force, familiar and desperate. Anakin's presence, reaching across the distance between Utapau and Coruscant. Master. The mental voice is urgent, frightened. Something's wrong with the clones. Palpatine was the Sith Lord. He's dead now. But Order 66 is active. You need to get somewhere safe. The words hit Obi-Wan like another blaster bolt. Palpatine? That's not possible. The Chancellor has been their ally, their supporter. But even as he thinks it, pieces fall into place. Palpatine's steady accumulation of power, his insistence on emergency authorities, the convenient crises that always seem to expand his influence. How did we not see it? It's true. Anakin's mental voice insists. I'll explain everything, but right now, you need to survive. Trust me, Master. Please. The plea in Anakin's voice, the raw honesty, convinces Obi-Wan more than any argument could. His former Padawan has never been good at deception. If Anakin says Palpatine was the Sith Lord, then it must be true, however impossible it seems. I'll find a way. Obi-Wan sends back. May the Force be with you, my old Padawan. He begins climbing, using the Force to enhance his strength, finding handholds in the rough stone of the sinkhole wall. Above him, he can hear the clones searching, their voices echoing down the vast shaft. But he's already working out an escape plan, his mind racing through options. On Megiddo, the crystal planet, Ki-Adi-Mundi is not so fortunate. The Syrian Jedi Master is leading his troops through the crystalline canyons when Commander Bakara and his Marines open fire without warning. The first volley catches Ki-Adi-Mundi in the back. He tries to turn, to defend himself, but there are too many of them. His lightsaber ignites, deflects a few shots, but the sustained fire is overwhelming. He falls among the crystals, his blood staining their pristine surfaces. On Felucia, the fungal forest world of vibrant colors and deadly plants, Aayla Secura walks through the alien landscape with Commander Bly and his troops. The Twi'lek Jedi is relaxed, even happy. The war has been hard on everyone. But moments like this, walking through the strange beauty of Felucia, remind her why the Jedi fight, to protect the galaxy. Then Bly receives the order. His rifle comes up. Aayla senses the danger, a heartbeat before the first shot, spins with her blue lightsaber ignited, her face showing not anger, but profound sadness. Bly, what are you doing? But there's no answer, no explanation, just blaster fire from all sides. She deflects desperately, but there are too many, the angles too perfect. She falls among the giant mushrooms. Her last thought, a question. Why? On Cato Neimoidia, the bridge city planet, Plo Koon, is flying his starfighter through the upper atmosphere when his own wingmen receive Order 66. They open fire on their general's fighter, catching it in a crossfire. The explosion lights up the sky, and the wreckage tumbles down into the canyons far below. The Keldor Jedi Master, who survived countless battles, who wore a mask to breathe in oxygen-rich atmospheres, dies never knowing why his soldiers betrayed him. On Salukami, Stas Ali rides a speeder bike across the plains when her clone escort opens fire. The bark speeder she's riding explodes, sending her flying. She doesn't survive the impact. On Cato Neimoidia, a different Jedi, a Padawan named Sarah Keto, manages to survive the initial betrayal by sheer luck. She was separated from her clone squadron, investigating a crashed separatist ship. When she feels the disturbance in the Force and sees her troops suddenly hunting for her, she goes to ground, hiding in the wreckage, her mind trying to understand what's happening. Across the galaxy, in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, the younglings and Padawans are going about their evening routines. Some are meditating in the Room of 1,000 Fountains. Others are practicing their lightsaber forms in the training halls. A few are studying ancient texts in the archives. None of them know that clone troopers of the 501st Legion are marching up the temple steps, led by Commander Appo. But this time, there's no Darth Vader leading them. Anakin Skywalker is in the Chancellor's office, dealing with the aftermath of killing Palpatine. The clones enter the temple on their own, following the orders programmed into their inhibitor chips, but without the overwhelming dark side presence to guide and strengthen them. The temple guards react immediately when the clones open fire. Their yellow, double-bladed lightsabers ignite, forming a defensive line. An alarm sounds through the temple, ancient and terrible, one that hasn't been heard in centuries. The alarm that means the temple is under attack. Jedi Masters throughout the building respond instantly. Shakti rushes from her quarters, her lightsaber already ignited. Sindralig, the temple battlemaster, gathers his most advanced students. Jocasta Nu begins emergency protocols in the archives, protecting the most valuable holocrons. The younglings are rushed to secure chambers deep in the temple's heart, but the situation is chaos. The clones are everywhere, and they're fighting with a mechanical precision that makes them terrifying opponents. They know the temple's layout, know the Jedi's fighting styles, know exactly where to shoot, to kill. Many Jedi fall in the first few minutes, caught off guard, unable to believe their allies have turned on them. In the Senate building, Mas Amedda, the Chagrian vice chair of the Senate, receives word of the Chancellor's death through official channels. As vice chair, emergency powers should theoretically fall to him according to the chain of succession. But he's paralyzed by indecision. He knew of Palpatine's plans, had been complicit in many of them, quietly moving legislation that expanded executive power, subtly blocking investigations that got too close to the truth. Now his master is dead, and Mas Amedda finds himself in an impossible position. If he tries to claim power, he'll draw attention to himself. Questions will be asked, investigations will begin. His connection to Palpatine's schemes might be discovered. But if he doesn't act, someone else will seize control, and he'll lose any leverage he has. He sits in his office, his long fingers drumming on his desk, his mind racing through possibilities. Finally, he reaches for his communicator, preparing to make a statement to the Senate. But before he can, another voice cuts through the government communication network. In the military command center deep beneath the Senate district, Grand Moff Wilhuff Tarkin stands before a holo display showing the galactic situation. He's a thin man with sharp features and sharper eyes, wearing his gray uniform with military precision. When word of the Chancellor's death reaches him, he doesn't hesitate. Tarkin has been preparing for this moment for years, though he expected it to come under different circumstances. He expected to be implementing Palpatine's new order, transitioning the Republic into an empire. Instead, he's dealing with a power vacuum. But a power vacuum is something Tarkin knows how to exploit. All military forces, this is Grand Moff Tarkin. He broadcasts on all clone command frequencies. Chancellor Palpatine has been killed by Jedi traitors. I am assuming emergency military command. under Article 7 of the Republic Defense Proclamation. All clone commanders are to continue with Order 66. All Jedi are to be considered enemies of the Republic and eliminated on sight. Maintain order in your sectors at all costs. Tarkin out. The message goes out to thousands of clone commanders across the galaxy. Some, like Commander Bakara, who has already killed Ki-Adi-Mundi, acknowledge and continue their grim work. Others hesitate, uncertain. The orders coming through their inhibitor chips are absolute. But Tarkin isn't the Chancellor. The chain of command is breaking down. Commander Gree on Kashyyyk has already failed to eliminate Yoda. The Grand Master escaped into the forests. And now, Gree stands with his men, uncertain. He receives Tarkin's message, but something feels wrong. The absolute certainty that came with the initial Order 66 command, the undeniable compulsion, is starting to fade. "Sir," one of his men says, "we lost the target. What are our orders?" Tarkin's voice crackles through again. "Continue the mission. All Jedi are to be eliminated." This comes from the highest military authority. But Gree has fought alongside Yoda for 3 years. He's seen the Grand Master risk his life to save clone troopers, make impossible decisions to minimize casualties, treat the clones not as property but as people. And now he's supposed to believe that Yoda, of all beings, is a traitor to the Republic. "Sir, we need confirmation from the Chancellor himself," Gree says, his voice uncertain. "The Chancellor is dead. Commander, I am assuming emergency military command. Proceed with your orders." Gree looks at his men, sees the same uncertainty reflected in their body language, even if he can't see their faces behind their helmets. The inhibitor chips are still pushing them toward obedience. But without Palpatine's dark side influence subtly reinforcing the command, doubts begin to creep in. "We're standing down," Gree finally says. "We need to figure out what's really going on here before we execute any more Jedi." The decision ripples outward. Other clone commanders, monitoring the command frequencies, hear Gree's choice. On Salukami, Commander Neo, who has just killed Stas Ali, suddenly finds his co-pilot questioning the order. "Sir, we just killed a Jedi general without proper documentation or trial. This doesn't follow Republic law. Shouldn't we report this to the Senate Oversight Committee?" Neo, still partly in the grip of his chip's programming, tries to rationalize it. "We have our orders, soldier." But even as he says it, doubt creeps in. His co-pilot is right. This isn't how the Republic is supposed to work. On Cato Neimoidia, the clones who destroyed Plo Koon's fighter are returning to base when they realize what they've done. They just killed one of the most respected Jedi in the Order, a master who fought beside them for 3 years, who knew many of their names, who mourned their losses. The cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. Several request immediate psychiatric evaluations, certain something is wrong with them. The conspiracy that Palpatine spent years building, with its inhibitor chips and secret protocols, with its layers of manipulation and dark side influence, begins to unravel without his constant attention holding it together. The chips still function, still compel the clones toward obedience, but the commands they receive are now contradictory and chaotic. Some orders come from Tarkin, claiming military authority. Some come from Mas Amedda, claiming governmental authority. Some come from regional governors trying to seize power in the vacuum. The clones, bred for clear hierarchies, and absolute obedience, find themselves in a situation their programming never anticipated. Multiple chains of command, all claiming legitimate authority, all giving different orders. On Coruscant, Mace Windu has recovered enough to stand without support. He looks at Palpatine's body, then at Anakin. "We need to inform the Council," he says. "Those who survive. Yoda needs to know what's happened." Anakin nods and closes his eyes, reaching out through the Force. The technique of communicating across vast distances isn't something he's mastered, but desperation and the Force itself seem to guide him. He finds Yoda's presence first, small but blazing bright in the Force, and sends his warning. Then he finds Obi-Wan, still climbing out of the sinkhole on Utapau, and reaches out to him. The connection snaps into place, and Anakin sends not just words but feelings, memories, everything he witnessed in Palpatine's office. Master Yoda. Mace is also reaching out through the Force, his technique more refined than Anakin's. The danger is even greater than we feared. Palpatine was the Sith Lord, but he's dead now. Anakin killed him. Dead, you say? Yoda's mental voice carries shock and concern. Troubling this is, but not the end of our problems. The clones, they have turned on us. Order 66 has been activated. Warn the others. We must. To the Jedi Temple, do not return. Compromised. It is. I'll reach out to as many as I can, Mace promises. But Master, what about the younglings, the Padawans, in the temple? They're in danger. Send help, we must. But carefully, rushed in blindly, we cannot. Yoda's presence in the Force is troubled, heavy with the weight of his failures. The Jedi Order, at an end it may be, but protect those we can. We must try. Anakin opens his eyes. I need to go to Padme. I need to make sure she's safe. He looks at Mace. Will you be all right here? Mace nods slowly. Go, Skywalker. Make sure Senator Amidala is safe, but then return to us. The Jedi Order will need you in the days ahead. You've proven yourself today in ways I never expected. He pauses, and something like humility crosses his face. I misjudged you. I let my concerns about your training, about your emotions, blind me to your true character. For that, I apologize. Anakin meets his gaze, and for the first time in their long relationship, sees genuine respect there. Thank you, Master Windu, but I'm not sure there will be a Jedi Order after this. The Republic, the Jedi, everything Palpatine touched is corrupted. That remains to be seen. But we must try to save what we can. Democracy, justice, hope. These things are worth fighting for, even when the fight seems hopeless. Now, go. May the Force be with you. Anakin runs from the office, his mind already reaching toward Padme's apartment in the Senate district. He can feel her presence in the Force, bright and worried, but safe. For now, he pushes harder, running through the corridors of power that Palpatine walked for so many years, plotting the Republic's downfall. The hallways are chaos. Security personnel are rushing toward the Chancellor's office. Senators are emerging from their chambers, demanding answers. The news is spreading. The Chancellor is dead, killed in his own office. Rumors fly. Some say it was Jedi assassins. Some say it was separatist infiltrators. No one knows the truth yet. Anakin dodges the crowds, using the Force to guide him through alternate routes. He doesn't want to be stopped, doesn't want to have to explain. Not yet. Not until he knows Padme is safe. In her apartment, Padme Amidala stands before the holonews feeds, watching with growing horror as reports come in from across the galaxy. Jedi are being killed by clone troopers. The Chancellor is dead. The Republic is in chaos. Her hand unconsciously rests on her stomach, on the life growing there. She doesn't know yet that she's carrying twins. She only knows that she's pregnant, that Anakin is the father, and that the galaxy is falling apart. When Anakin bursts through her door, she turns with relief clear on her face. "Ani, what's happening?" The news feeds are saying the Jedi tried to assassinate the Chancellor, that clone troopers are hunting them across the galaxy. But that can't be true. That doesn't make any sense. Anakin crosses to her in 3 quick strides and pulls her into his arms. She can feel him trembling, can feel the storm of emotions roiling through him. When he speaks, his voice is rough. The Chancellor was the Sith Lord. Padme, the one the Jedi have been hunting for years. He's been orchestrating everything. The invasion of Naboo, the Clone Wars, all of it. He tried to turn me to the dark side. He planted visions in my mind. Visions of you dying in childbirth. Padme pulls back to look at his face, searching his eyes. "What did you do, Anakin?" "I killed him. I put my lightsaber through his heart." Anakin's voice is steady, certain. He was trying to get me to kill Mace Windu, to pledge myself to him. But I saw through it. I saw what he was doing. I chose you. I chose the Jedi. I chose the light. Tears spring to Padme's eyes. But they're not tears of fear. They're tears of relief. "I was so afraid," she whispers. "I had dreams too. Dreams of you falling to darkness, of losing you to hate and anger. I was terrified it would come true. It didn't. It won't." Anakin holds her tightly, but Palpatine activated Order 66 before he died. The clones are turning on the Jedi across the galaxy. We're in the middle of a purge, and I don't know how to stop it. Padme's mind, always political, always strategic, begins working through the implications. If the Chancellor was the Sith Lord, then everything he did, every executive order, every emergency power, it was all part of a plot to destroy the Jedi and take control of the Republic. She pulls away, her face hardening with determination. Then we fight back. The Senate. Anakin, we use the Senate. Bail will help. Mon Mothma, too. If we can rally enough senators, we might be able to stop this before it goes too far. But the military, they'll claim emergency powers. Without the Chancellor, someone will try to seize control. Anakin's thinking tactically now, analyzing the situation. Tarkin, probably. He's been positioning himself for years. Then we need to be faster. We need to get ahead of this. Padme is already moving to her communication console. I'll contact Bail immediately. He's been suspicious of Palpatine's power grabs for years. If anyone will believe us, it's him. As Padme begins making calls, reaching out to her allies in the Senate, Anakin senses another presence through the Force. Ahsoka, his former Padawan, fighting on Mandalore with Rex and the 332nd. He reaches out desperately. "Ahsoka, it's Anakin. Listen to me carefully. Order 66 has been activated. The clones are going to turn on you. You need to protect yourself. On Mandalore, in the corridors of the capital city, Ahsoka Tano is escorting Maul to a detention cell when she feels Anakin's warning touch her mind. At almost the same moment, Rex receives the transmission: execute Order 66. The clone captain's body goes rigid, his hand moving to his blaster. But Rex is strong-willed, one of the most independent clones ever created, and he knows something is wrong. He fights the compulsion, his hand trembling as it grips his weapon. Ahsoka, his voice is strained, his whole body shaking. Something's wrong. The orders. I can't. I don't want to, but I can't stop. Ahsoka understands immediately. She reaches out with the Force, sensing the conflict in Rex, the foreign compulsion trying to override his personality. The chips. Fives was right. She moves quickly, using the Force to pull Rex's blasters from his hands before he can fire. Rex, listen to me. You're being controlled. There's something in your head making you do this. Around them, other members of the 332nd are raising their weapons. But Rex's struggle has bought Ahsoka crucial seconds. She deflects their first volley, her green and blue lightsabers moving in defensive forms. I don't want to hurt you, she shouts. You're my friends. But the clones aren't listening. Their chips have fully activated, and they're advancing with mechanical precision. Ahsoka realizes she needs help, and she does the last thing she ever expected to do. She rushes to Maul's detention cell and releases him. The former Sith Lord looks at her with surprise and dark amusement. How delightfully unexpected. What's happened to turn you so desperate, Lady Tano? The clones are trying to kill me. Something's controlling them. I'll explain later, but right now, I need your help to survive. Maul's eyes gleam with understanding. Ah, so Sidious has made his move at last. Very well. I accept your temporary alliance. After all, we share a common enemy now. Together, they fight through the corridors. Ahsoka desperately trying not to kill the clones she's fought beside for years, while Maul has no such compunctions. They eventually manage to capture Rex and a few other clones, and Ahsoka uses her knowledge of the inhibitor chips, learned from Fives' desperate warnings, to remove Rex's chip using a medical droid. When Rex wakes up, his first words are horror-filled. What did I almost do? Ahsoka, I almost killed you. His hands are shaking. It wasn't you, Ahsoka says firmly. It was the chip. Fives tried to warn us, and we didn't listen. She helps him to his feet. We need to remove the chips from as many of our men as we can, then get off this planet. The entire Republic has turned against us. Back on Coruscant, in the Senate District, Bail Organa is in his office when Padme's urgent call comes through. His face goes pale as he listens to her explanation. Palpatine was the Sith Lord? That's impossible, isn't it? But even as he says it, he's realizing it makes perfect sense. Every suspicious decision, every power grab, every emergency that expanded executive authority. I know it sounds insane, Padme says, her voice urgent, but Anakin was there. He saw it. Palpatine tried to turn him, tried to make him his apprentice. Anakin killed him instead. But not before Palpatine activated something called Order 66. The clone troopers are turning on the Jedi across the galaxy. Bail's mind races. If this is true, If the Chancellor orchestrated the entire Clone Wars, then nothing about the Republic's government can be trusted. Everything needs to be questioned, examined, reformed. We need to act quickly before the military consolidates power. Mon Mothma. We need to bring her in, and as many senators as we can trust. I'm already contacting her. Padme confirms. Bail, we might be able to save the Republic, but we need to move fast. I'm on my way to you. Stay safe, Senator. These are dangerous times. As Bail prepares to leave his office, he pauses. There's one more person he needs to contact. Someone who has been quietly fighting against Palpatine's overreach for years. He opens a secure channel to Naboo and contacts the former Queen, now Senator from Naboo's secondary delegation. When her face appears on the holodisplay, he speaks carefully. We need to talk. Something catastrophic has happened, and we need every ally we can get. Across the galaxy, on the invisible hand, General Grievous stands on the bridge of his flagship. The cyborg general has just received word from his intelligence network that both Count Dooku and Darth Sidious are dead. For a moment, he processes this information with his mechanical mind, running calculations and probabilities. Then he laughs. A harsh, mechanical sound that echoes through the bridge. Excellent. The Sith have failed us for the last time. The remaining members of the Separatist Council, who had been gathered on Mustafar awaiting Sidious's final orders, are brought to the bridge via hologram. Their faces show a mixture of fear and opportunistic calculation. Newt Gunray, the Neimoidian viceroy, who has been at the center of separatist politics since the beginning, raises a trembling objection. But Lord Sidious promised us protection, promised us victory. Without him, we are vulnerable. We should negotiate a surrender, perhaps claim we were coerced. Grievous turns his mechanical body to face the hologram, his eyes burning with contempt. We were always vulnerable, you fool. Sidious was using us just as he used the Republic. He created this war, controlled both sides like pieces on a Dejaric board. But now the Game Master is dead, and we have an opportunity. His mechanical hand clenches into a fist. The Republic is in chaos. Their clone army is turning on their Jedi generals. Their Chancellor is dead. Their government is paralyzed. This is our opportunity to strike, to win this war once and for all, and to forge a truly independent confederacy. Wat Tambor, the Techno-Union foreman, leans forward with interest. An offensive against the core worlds? That's remarkably aggressive, General. What makes you think we can succeed where we failed before? Because before, we were fighting a war designed to be unwinnable. Grievous's voice is cold, analytical. Dooku and Sidious ensured that neither side could achieve total victory. Every time we gained an advantage, mysterious setbacks would occur. Every time the Republic seemed ready to collapse, convenient intelligence would save them. But now we fight for ourselves, not for Sith schemes. Sandhill of the banking clan nods slowly. The general makes a compelling point. Our droid armies are still largely intact. The Republic's military is in disarray. If we strike quickly at key targets, we might force a favorable peace settlement. Even if we don't win militarily, we strengthen our negotiating position. Pascal Argente of the Corporate Alliance adds his support. I agree, but we must be strategic. We should target worlds that are already sympathetic to our cause. Liberate them from Republic control and present ourselves as freedom fighters rather than separatists. Grievous's mechanical laugh echoes again. Finally, you politicians think like warriors. Very well. Prepare the droid armies for a coordinated offensive. We strike at Coruscant itself. While their capital burns, we negotiate from strength. And this time, we negotiate for real independence, not as puppets of a Sith Lord. The holographic council members exchange glances. For the first time in years, they're making decisions without Dooku or Sidious controlling them. It's both terrifying and exhilarating. They agree to Grievous's plan, and the general begins issuing orders to his droid commanders across the galaxy. On Alderaan, Bail Organa's palace is becoming an unlikely command center. The peaceful world, known for its beauty and culture, now hosts an emergency gathering of senators and Jedi. Yoda is the first to arrive. His small frame carried by Wookiee allies who escaped Kashyyyk with him. Chewbacca himself escorts the Jedi Master to Bail's conference room. Master Yoda. Bail greets him with relief. Thank the Force, you're safe. We've been monitoring the situation across the galaxy. The reports are catastrophic. Hundreds of Jedi dead. Maybe thousands. The clone army has turned against the Order. Yoda nods gravely, his ancient face heavy with sorrow. Safe. Yes, but troubled I am. Many Jedi have fallen, and more will fall before this is over. But gather, we must. Plan, we must. The Republic can still be saved, but only if act quickly we do. Bail leads him to the conference room where Mon Mothma is already waiting. The senator from Chandrila has always been one of the most principled voices in the Senate, opposing Palpatine's accumulation of power at every turn. When she sees Yoda, she rises and bows respectfully. Master Yoda, we've been watching the situation unfold. The military is claiming emergency powers, citing the death of the Chancellor and the supposed Jedi coup. But Senator Amidala has given us a very different version of events. She says Palpatine was the Sith Lord. Yoda settles into a chair designed for his small size. True, this is. Clouded, the dark side has made everything. But clear it is now. Palpatine was Darth Sidious. Orchestrated the Clone Wars, he did. Created the clone army. Manipulated the Separatists. All to seize power and destroy the Jedi. Mon Mothma's face is grim. Can you prove it? Do you have evidence that will convince the Senate? Because right now, the military has control of the narrative, and they're painting the Jedi as traitors who attempted a coup. Evidence we shall find. Palpatine's office, his personal records, somewhere the truth must be hidden. Anakin Skywalker may know more. Present when Palpatine revealed himself, he was. Killed the Sith Lord, he did. As if summoned by the mention of his name, a ship lands on one of Bail's platforms. Obi-Wan Kenobi emerges, haggard and exhausted from his escape from Utapau. He had to steal a starfighter from the clone garrison, barely escaping before they locked down the planet. His robes are torn, his face dirty, but he's alive. Master Yoda. Obi-Wan enters the conference room and immediately approaches the Grand Master. I came as quickly as I could. I've heard reports that half the Jedi Order is dead, maybe more. What's our situation? Yoda's ears droop with sorrow. Grim young Obi-Wan. Very grim indeed. Survived. Many have not. But those who remain must endure. Tell me, contact with Anakin. Have you had? Yes, Master. He reached out to me on Utapau, warned me about Order 66. He told me Palpatine was the Sith Lord and that he had killed him. Obi-Wan pauses, his expression troubled. He's on Coruscant with Senator Amidala. Yoda's eyes narrow slightly, his ancient mind working through the implications. Together with the senator, he is significant. This may be. Close to her, Anakin has always been. But discuss this later. We shall. First, survive we must. Plan we must. Mon Mothma leans forward, her sharp mind cutting to the political heart of the matter. Masters, we need a coordinated strategy. The Senate is in chaos. Tarkin has declared martial law and claimed emergency military command. Mas Amedda is trying to assert his authority as vice chair. And across the galaxy, regional governors are seizing power in the vacuum. If we don't act quickly, the Republic will fragment or consolidate into a military dictatorship. Bale adds his perspective. We have allies in the Senate, senators who have been opposing Palpatine's overreach for years. If we can rally them, present evidence of Palpatine's true nature, we might be able to establish a legitimate government. But we're racing against time. And the separatists, Obi-Wan points out. They won't just stand aside while we sort out our internal politics. Without Dooku and Sidious controlling them, they're unpredictable. They might negotiate, or they might see this as their chance to win the war. Yoda closes his eyes, meditating on the possibilities. Many paths forward. There are many dangers. But right, the senator is. Act we must. And quickly, a coalition we must form. Senators who believe in democracy, Jedi who survive, even clones who resist their programming. Together, stronger we are. Over the next several hours, the conference room fills with arrivals. Padme and Anakin arrive from Coruscant, bringing with them a data archive. They managed to copy from Palpatine's office before Tarkin's forces could secure it. The archive contains encrypted files that will take time to decrypt. But preliminary scans suggest they contain evidence of Palpatine's Sith identity and his manipulation of galactic events. Mace Windu arrives, having escaped from Coruscant with a handful of Jedi Masters who survived the temple attack. Shak Ti is with him. Along with Sindralig and a group of Padawans, they managed to evacuate. The temple fell. Mace reports grimly. We lost too many. The younglings were evacuated through the lower levels, but many Jedi died, defending them. Sin saved dozens with his sacrifice. Sindralig, the temple's battlemaster, looks haunted. I should have died there. I should have stayed to the end. You stayed long enough, Shak Ti says gently. Long enough for the younglings to escape. That's what matters. Other survivors trickle in over the following days. Kit Fisto arrives from Mon Calamari, where he was overseeing naval operations. He barely escaped when his clone crew turned on him, but his aquatic combat skills saved his life. Luminara Unduli arrives with her Padawan Barriss Offee, both having survived Order 66 on Kashyyyk with Yoda's help. Quinlan Vos emerges from deep cover in the Outer Rim, where he'd been infiltrating a separatist intelligence cell. Even Plo Koon arrives. To everyone's shock, the reports of his death were premature. His starfighter was shot down, but the Kel Dor Master managed to eject and survive the crash landing. He was found by local resistance fighters who helped him escape the clone forces hunting for survivors. But for every Jedi who makes it to Alderaan, there are reports of 5 more who didn't. Ki Adi-Mundi, Ayla Secura, Stas Ali, Ajan Kolar, Saisi Teen, Depa Bilaba. The list of the fallen grows longer each hour. Masters, Knights, Padawans. The Jedi Order is bleeding out. Ahsoka arrives with Rex and several members of the 332nd who had their chips removed. She brings troubling news about Maul, who escaped during the chaos on Mandalore. But she also brings hope. Proof that the clones can be freed from their programming if the inhibitor chips are removed. When she sees Anakin, she runs to him and embraces her former master. Sky Guy, I'm so glad you're okay. I heard what happened with Palpatine. You did the right thing. Anakin holds her tightly, relief flooding through him. You're alive. When I felt the disturbance in the Force, I was afraid. I'm sorry. Snips, I'm sorry I wasn't there to protect you. You warned me. That warning saved my life. Ahsoka pulls back to look at him. And I'm not your responsibility anymore. I left the Order. Remember? But she's smiling as she says it, taking the sting from the words. You'll always be my responsibility. Anakin says firmly. Your family. The reunion is interrupted by an urgent communication. On the holodisplay, a Coruscant news feed shows the Senate in emergency session. Tarkin is addressing the gathered senators, his voice cold and authoritative. Fellow senators, we face an unprecedented crisis. The Chancellor has been murdered by Jedi traitors. The clone army, our brave defenders, has been forced to execute Order 66, a defensive protocol designed to protect the Republic from a Jedi coup. Even now, rogue Jedi are attempting to destabilize our government, to seize power in the chaos. I have assumed emergency military command to maintain order. I call upon all loyal senators to support this necessary action. But before he can continue, Mon Mothma's voice rings out from the Senate floor. She had traveled to Coruscant in secret, coordinating with Bail and Padme. Point of order, Grand Moff Tarkin. By what legal authority do you claim emergency command? The Chancellor is dead, yes, but constitutional succession falls to the Vice Chair, not to military commanders. Tarkin's eyes narrow as he looks at Mon Mothma. Senator, the Vice Chair has proven unable to manage this crisis. The military must step in to prevent total collapse. Unable or unwilling? Mon Mothma's voice is sharp. Because I've heard reports that Vice Chair Ameda was complicit in many of the Chancellor's illegal activities. Perhaps he's reluctant to assume power because he fears investigation. The Senate erupts into shouting. Some senators support Tarkin, believing the strong hand of military authority is needed. Others rally behind Mon Mothma, recognizing this as the moment democracy either survives or dies. In the chaos, Padme's voice cuts through via hologram from Alderaan. Senators, I have evidence that Chancellor Palpatine was not who he claimed to be. Her face is serious, her voice carrying the weight of terrible truth. I have testimony from witnesses, including Jedi Masters and a clone captain, that Palpatine revealed himself to be Darth Sidious, the Sith Lord. The Jedi have been hunting for years. He orchestrated the Clone Wars, created the clone army with hidden programming, and attempted to destroy the Jedi Order. to seize absolute power. The Senate falls silent in shock. Some senators laugh nervously, certain this must be a joke or a desperate lie. Others, those who have suspected something was wrong for years, feel pieces clicking into place. Tarkin's response is immediate and cold. Senator Amidala, these are serious accusations. Do you have proof? Or is this merely a desperate attempt to deflect from the Jedi's failed coup? We have proof, Padme says firmly. Data archives from the Chancellor's personal files, testimony from multiple witnesses, and we invite a full, independent investigation by the Senate Oversight Committee. Let the evidence speak for itself. The Senate descends into chaos again. Fistfights nearly break out between senators. The Speaker tries to restore order, but it's clear the Republic is fracturing in real time. Finally, Bail Organa proposes a solution via hologram. I move that we establish a temporary coalition government. Representatives from the Senate, the military, and yes, the surviving Jedi, to work together to navigate this crisis. We investigate these allegations thoroughly. We examine the legal basis for Order 66, and we work toward a lasting peace with the Separatists. This is too important for any one faction to control. The proposal is radical, but it gains traction. Senators who have worked with Bail over the years, who trust his integrity, begin to support it. Even some of Tarkin's allies, uncomfortable with his naked power grab, see the wisdom in a coalition approach. But Tarkin isn't finished. He contacts his fleet commanders and orders a show of force. Star Destroyers move into position over Coruscant, their weapons primed. The message is clear. The military can seize control by force if necessary. This is where Anakin makes his move. He broadcasts a message across all military frequencies, using his status as the hero with no fear. The most famous Jedi general of the Clone Wars. This is General Anakin Skywalker. I'm speaking to all clone troopers, all naval personnel, all military officers. You know me. You fought beside me for 3 years. I've never lied to you, never abandoned you in battle. So believe me now when I tell you that Order 66 is based on a lie. Palpatine was the Sith Lord. He created the clone army with hidden programming to make you kill the Jedi. I know this because I was there when he revealed himself. I killed him to stop his plan. The message sends shockwaves through the military. Anakin Skywalker, saying the Chancellor was evil. The cognitive dissonance is enormous, but Anakin's reputation carries weight. He saved the lives of countless clones, fought in the thick of battle, never asked his men to do anything he wouldn't do himself. I'm not asking you to turn against the Republic, Anakin continues. I'm asking you to think for yourselves. Question your orders. Investigate the truth. Don't let anyone, not Tarkin, not Masameda, not anyone, use you as tools for their ambitions. You're not droids. You're not property. You're men. Act like it. The message doesn't convince everyone, but it plants doubt. And doubt is all that's needed to slow Tarkin's momentum. Clone commanders across the fleet begin questioning their orders, demanding to see evidence, insisting on legal documentation before taking action against the Jedi. Commander Cody, who shot Obi-Wan on Utapau and has been wrestling with guilt and confusion ever since, makes a crucial decision. He contacts Obi-Wan directly via encrypted channel. "General Kenobi, sir, I don't know what happened to me. But if what Skywalker says is true, if there's something controlling us, I want it out. I want to help." Obi-Wan, remembering the years of friendship and trust, responds immediately. "Commander, we can help you. We've learned how to remove the chips. If you can get to Alderaan, we'll free you from the programming." Cody looks at his men, sees the same confusion and uncertainty in their body language. "I'll bring my battalion, sir. We'll stand with the Jedi." The defection of Cody and the 212th Attack Battalion is a turning point. Other units follow. Not all of them, not even most, but enough to prevent the military from acting as a unified force under Tarkin's command. The clone army, created to be the perfect soldiers, proves to be more than just programmed weapons. They prove to be men capable of choice. On Alderaan, the coalition begins to take shape. Yoda, Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, Anakin, Padme, and a dozen other key figures work around the clock to draft a framework for a new government. The debates are heated, passionate, sometimes angry. The Jedi Order failed because we became too involved in politics. Mace Windu argues, "We can't make the same mistake again. If we're to rebuild, we must be different. We cannot be generals and warriors. We must return to being guardians and peacekeepers." But Anakin pushes back. And what good is a guardian who stands aside while people suffer? The old Jedi Order was too detached, too removed from the real problems of the galaxy. People need to see that the Force can help them, not just in grand battles, but in their daily lives. Yoda listens to both perspectives, his ancient mind weighing centuries of experience against new realities. Right, you both are, and wrong, you both are. A balance we must find. Involved in the galaxy, the Jedi must be, but not as rulers or warriors, as servants. Humble we must become. Acknowledge our failures. We must. The political discussions are equally intense. Bail and Mon Mothma push for sweeping reforms to prevent another Palpatine from rising. No more emergency powers. No more executive overreach. Real checks and balances between branches of government. Tarkin, participating via hologram under duress, fights to maintain military autonomy. The armed forces must remain strong. We face threats from the separatists, from crime syndicates, from unknown regions. We cannot hamstring our ability to defend the Republic. Padme mediates between the factions. We need security. Yes, but security without freedom is tyranny, and freedom without security is chaos. We find a balance or we lose everything. The debates continue for days, but gradually a framework emerges. A coalition government with power distributed between the Senate, the Jedi Council, and an independent judiciary. The military placed under civilian oversight with strong safeguards against abuse. The clones recognized as sentient beings with full rights. Their chips to be removed, their futures their own to choose. But the separatist question remains unresolved. How do you end a war that was designed to be unwinnable? How do you negotiate with an enemy when both sides were manipulated by the same puppet master? The answer comes from an unexpected source. Grievous himself contacts the coalition with a proposal. He broadcasts on all channels, his mechanical voice carrying across the galaxy. Leaders of the Republic, I am General Grievous of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. I propose a ceasefire and negotiations, not as separatists seeking to destroy the Republic, but as independent systems seeking autonomy and fair representation. The Sith manipulated both our sides, turned us against each other for their own purposes, but the Sith are dead now. We have an opportunity to end this war honestly, to create a lasting peace based on mutual respect rather than domination. The proposal is stunning in its reasonableness. The Senate debates it furiously. Some senators want total victory, want to crush the separatists now that they're leaderless. Others see the wisdom in a negotiated peace, recognizing that the war has bled both sides dry. Padme and Bail push hard for negotiations. We acknowledge that the Republic failed many of these worlds, they argue. Corporate exploitation, Senate corruption, neglect of the Outer Rim, these were real grievances. If we're to have lasting peace, we must address them. A summit is proposed, to be held on Naboo, a world that has connections to both sides of the conflict. Neutral ground where all factions can meet and negotiate. The date is set for 2 weeks hence, giving all sides time to prepare. In those 2 weeks, the galaxy holds its breath. Fighting continues in some sectors where local commanders haven't received or haven't accepted ceasefire orders. But the major offensives stop. The massive fleet Grievous was preparing to send against Coruscant stands down. The clone army halts its Jedi purge as more and more units have their chips removed or commanders choose to question their orders. Anakin and Padme use this time to marry formally, not in secret this time, but with witnesses and celebration. The wedding is small, held on Alderaan with their closest friends present. Yoda officiates, using ancient Jedi traditions that allow for marriage. Traditions the Order had abandoned centuries ago in its path toward absolute detachment. As Anakin and Padme exchange vows, Obi-Wan stands beside his former Padawan as his best man. Ahsoka stands with Padme, the two people who know Anakin best, who have seen him at his worst and his best. Bearing witness to this union, when Yoda pronounces them married, he adds words that signal a new path for the Jedi. Love, the Jedi have feared. Attachment, we have called it. But perhaps confused we were. Possessive love, selfish love, this leads to darkness, yes. But selfless love, compassionate love, this is the light itself. Learn from this, we all must. Days later, Padme's pregnancy becomes obvious, and the news spreads quickly. Some are scandalized. A Jedi with a family, but others see hope. If Anakin Skywalker, the hero with no fear, can balance his duties with love and family, maybe the rigid old ways weren't the only path. The Naboo summit approaches. All the major factions send representatives. Bail Organa and Mon Mothma lead the Senate delegation. Yoda, Mace, Windu, and Obi-Wan represent the Jedi. Tarkin comes, grudgingly, representing the military. And from the Separatist side, Grievous arrives with the Separatist council members. The palace where the summit is held is the same building where Padme once served as queen, where she fell in love with Anakin all those years ago. Now, it becomes the place where the galaxy attempts to heal itself. The negotiations are tense from the beginning. Years of war have created deep wounds. Trust is non-existent. Every proposal is met with suspicion. Every concession analyzed for hidden traps. Tarkin speaks first, his voice carrying military precision. The Republic requires certain assurances: demilitarization of separatist worlds, decommissioning of the droid armies, reparations for war damage. These are non-negotiable. Grievous's mechanical laugh echoes through the chamber. Non-negotiable? You're in no position to dictate terms, Grand Moff. Your government is barely functional. Your clone army is questioning its orders. And you started this war through Sith manipulation. If anything, you should be paying reparations to us. The temperature in the room rises. Accusations fly. Old grievances are aired. The summit threatens to collapse before it truly begins. Then Anakin speaks up. He's there not as an official delegate, but as an observer standing with Padme. But his voice carries weight. You're both wrong. Both sides. You're still thinking like enemies, looking to win the peace after failing to win the war. But there is no winning here. There's only choosing what kind of galaxy we want to live in. Grievous turns his mechanical eyes toward Anakin. And what do you propose, General Skywalker? What wisdom do you offer? I propose we stop pretending this was a normal war. It wasn't. It was a Sith plot, and both our sides were puppets. Anakin's voice is firm, certain. The Republic failed worlds that felt neglected and exploited. That's a fact. But the separatist movement was also manipulated by Dooku and Sidious, used as a tool to destabilize democracy. Also a fact. Neither side's hands are clean, and neither side has the moral high ground. Then what? Tarkin's voice is cold. We all just forgive and forget? Pretend millions didn't die? No. We acknowledge the truth, learn from it, and build something better. Anakin looks around the room, meeting the eyes of leaders from both sides. Worlds that want independence should have it, but with real independence, not as pawns of corporations or Sith lords. Worlds that want to rejoin the Republic should be welcomed, but the Republic needs to actually serve them this time, not ignore them. And the clone army, the Jedi, all the institutions that were weaponized by Palpatine, they all need to be reformed from the ground up. Padme adds her voice to Anakin's. We propose a new structure, not the old Republic that was corrupt and complacent, not a separatist confederacy built on grievance, but something new. A galactic coalition of independent systems with a common democratic framework. Worlds choose their level of involvement. Some might want full membership with representation in a reformed Senate. Others might want associate status with more autonomy. The key is choice, not coercion. Bail builds on the proposal, and we establish new safeguards. No single leader ever holds emergency powers again. The military serves the civilian government, not the other way around. The Jedi Order remains independent, a voice of moral authority but not political power. Corporate influence is curtailed with real oversight and accountability. We learn from our mistakes. The room falls silent as the leaders consider this vision. It's radical, perhaps impossibly idealistic, but it's also the only proposal on the table that doesn't simply try to recreate the pre-war status quo. Mon Mothma speaks, her voice thoughtful. This would require constitutional changes on a massive scale. Treaties, new legal frameworks. It would take years to implement fully. Then we take years. Padme responds. We start now and build toward it. The alternative, is to keep fighting, to bleed ourselves dry, until there's nothing left worth saving. Grievous leans back in his seat, his mechanical body creaking. You ask the Confederacy to trust the same republic that failed us before, that allowed corporations to exploit our worlds, that ignored our pleas for reform until we took up arms. Why should we believe this time will be different? Yoda speaks for the first time in the summit, his ancient voice carrying across the chamber. Different, because failed we all have. The Jedi, most of all. Arrogant, we became. Blind to the Sith. Complicit in war. If the Jedi can acknowledge our failures, reform our ways, so too can the Republic. So too can former separatists, or repeat our mistakes. We all shall. The words resonate. Slowly, grudgingly, the various factions begin to negotiate in earnest. It's not easy. There are walkouts. There are shouting matches. Tarkin threatens to leave twice. Grievous nearly crushes a droid attendant in frustration, but they keep coming back to the table because the alternative, endless war or fragmentation into chaos, is worse than any compromise. After 3 weeks of intense negotiations, a framework agreement emerges. The Galactic Concordat, they call it. Key provisions include immediate ceasefire and demilitarization on both sides. The droid armies will be deactivated and decommissioned. The clone army will be reduced in size, with clones given citizenship and choice. Jedi will be withdrawn from military command. A new constitution will be drafted over the next year, creating a reformed government with real checks on power. Worlds will vote on their future. Full membership in the new republic, associate membership with more autonomy, or full independence with trade agreements. Reparations and war crimes tribunals will be established, but with justice rather than revenge as the goal. Corporate accountability laws will prevent the exploitation that helped spark the conflict. It's not perfect. No one is fully satisfied. But it's something all sides can live with. And that's enough to end the war. The signing ceremony is broadcast across the galaxy. Leaders from every faction put their names to the Concordat. When Anakin watches it, standing beside Padme with his hand on her visibly pregnant belly, he feels something he hasn't felt in years. Hope. The transition period is chaotic. Implementing the Concordat's provisions takes months and requires constant negotiation. Clone troopers across the galaxy have their inhibitor chips removed in massive medical operations. Some choose to remain in military service as volunteers. Others retire, accepting government support to build new lives. Rex becomes one of the loudest advocates for clone rights, working with Padme and Bail to draft citizenship laws. Commander Cody, freed from his chip and racked with guilt over shooting Obi-Wan, dedicates himself to helping other clones transition to civilian life. Commander Wolf establishes the first clone settlement on a frontier world, where brothers can live together as a community rather than as soldiers. The Jedi Order undergoes its own transformation. Instead of one massive temple on Coruscant, smaller enclaves are established across the galaxy. Each enclave focuses on service to its local community. Jedi become teachers, mediators, healers, and yes, protectors, but not warriors or generals. Yoda leads this reform, drawing on ancient Jedi traditions that had been forgotten in the Order's later years. He establishes new training protocols where younglings maintain connections with their families instead of being taken away at birth, where Padawans learn to engage with the world rather than detach from it. where masters teach wisdom and compassion rather than dogma and rigidity. Mace Windu, surprisingly, becomes one of the most ardent supporters of these changes. His experience during the war, his realization of how the Council's arrogance contributed to their downfall, transforms him. He takes personal responsibility for training a new generation of Jedi who will be servants rather than authorities. Obi-Wan chooses a unique path. He becomes a liaison between the Jedi and the new government, using his diplomatic skills to ensure clear communication and mutual understanding. It's work he's well suited for, and it allows him to stay close to Anakin, whose friendship he values more than ever after nearly losing him to Palpatine's manipulation. Ahsoka returns to the Order, but on her own terms. She becomes a champion for Jedi, having lives outside the Order, for forming attachments and relationships that connect them to the people they serve. Her arguments, combined with the example of Anakin and Padmé's successful marriage, begin to shift the Order's perspective on attachment. Some traditionalist Jedi resist these changes. They argue that the old ways existed for reasons, that emotions and attachments are still dangerous. But they're a minority, and even they can't deny that the old ways failed. If the Jedi Order is to survive and remain relevant, it must evolve. Anakin himself takes the most unexpected path. He accepts the rank of Jedi Master, formally granted by Yoda in recognition of his role in stopping Palpatine. But instead of taking traditional responsibilities, he works with Padmé on political reform and with various Jedi enclaves on practical applications of Force techniques to help communities. He teaches Jedi how to use the Force for construction and agriculture, for disaster relief and medical support. Not the flashy combat applications, but the humble, useful applications that actually improve people's lives. It's unglamorous work, but it makes the Jedi relevant in ways they haven't been for centuries. When Luke and Leia are born on a peaceful night on Naboo, with the best medical care the galaxy can offer, Anakin is there, holding Padmé's hand, not sensing danger through a Force vision, not racing to prevent a tragedy. Just there, present, supporting his wife as she brings new life into the galaxy. The twins are healthy and beautiful. Luke has his father's blue eyes. Leia has her mother's fierce spirit from her very first cry. Anakin holds them both, tears streaming down his face, and realizes that this moment, this perfect, peaceful moment, is what he was always meant to protect. Not through domination or dark side power, but through love and service and choosing the light even when it's hard. Obi-Wan visits soon after, bringing gifts and congratulations. When he holds baby Luke, the infant reaches for his beard, and the Jedi Master laughs with pure joy. "I think he likes me better than you already, Anakin. Don't get used to it, old man." Anakin is grinning, happier than Obi-Wan has ever seen him. "You're going to be Uncle Obi-Wan. That means you're on diaper duty half the time. I've faced Sith Lords and droid armies. I think I can handle a diaper." Famous last words, Padmé calls from the bed, smiling despite her exhaustion. The news of the twins' birth spreads across the galaxy, and the reaction is largely positive. Some conservative voices grumble about Jedi having families, but most people see it as a symbol of hope. The hero with no fear, the man who killed the Sith Lord and helped end the war, building a life of peace with the woman he loves. It's a story the galaxy desperately needs. 5 years pass. The Galactic Concordat, initially a fragile framework, solidifies into functioning governance. It's messy, it's frustrating. Democracy always is, but it works. The new Senate operates under strict limitations on executive power. No single chancellor can accumulate the authorities Palpatine wielded. Every major decision requires approval from multiple oversight bodies. Some worlds chose full independence during the referendum period. Raxus, Onderon, and a dozen others established their own sovereign governments, maintaining trade and diplomatic relationships with the Republic, but charting their own courses. The Republic, learning from its failures, doesn't fight this. Instead, it respects their choice and works to maintain peaceful relations. Other former separatist worlds chose to rejoin the Republic with guarantees of autonomy and fair representation. Naboo becomes a model for this integration, using its connections to both sides to mediate disputes and foster cooperation. Bail Organa's Alderaan plays a similar role, becoming a center for diplomatic training and conflict resolution. The corporate entities that funded and profited from the war face accountability. Investigations reveal the depth of their complicity in Palpatine's schemes. The Trade Federation is dissolved, its assets seized and redistributed. The banking clan faces massive fines and restructuring. The Techno-Union is broken into smaller, regulated entities. It's not perfect justice, but it's more than the galaxy has ever seen before. General Grievous, surprisingly, becomes an advisor to the independent systems. His droid armies are decommissioned as promised, but his tactical mind and understanding of military doctrine make him valuable in defensive planning. He never softens, never becomes friendly, but he proves that even he can adapt to a galaxy without war. His relationship with the Jedi remains tense, hostile even, but he honors the Concordat and keeps the peace. The clone troopers undergo the most dramatic transformation. With their chips removed and citizenship granted, they face the challenge of building lives they were never designed for. Some struggle terribly. The transition from soldier to civilian, from taking orders to making choices, breaks some of them. Mental health support becomes a major focus, with Jedi healers working alongside civilian therapists to help clones process their trauma. But many clones thrive. They discover talents and interests beyond warfare. Some become farmers, finding peace in working with the land. Others become teachers, using their training to instruct planetary defense forces. A few even become artists, expressing years of suppressed creativity in painting and sculpture and music. Rex marries, shocking everyone, including himself. He meets a doctor who treated him after a training accident, and they connect over long conversations about purpose and identity. Their wedding becomes a celebration attended by clones and Jedi alike, another symbol of the new galaxy taking shape. Cody never quite forgives himself for shooting Obi-Wan, despite the Jedi Master's repeated assurances that he wasn't in control of his actions. He channels his guilt into helping other clones, becoming a fierce advocate and counselor. His work saves lives and gives purpose to thousands of brothers struggling with their new freedom. Clone communities spring up across the galaxy. Some are farming collectives on frontier worlds. Others are industrial cooperatives, using military discipline and organization in civilian contexts. A few become peacekeeping forces for worlds that can't afford traditional militaries, hiring clones as professional soldiers by choice rather than compulsion. The most touching development is the clone families. Clones marrying, adopting children, building homes and lives. The Kaminoans designed them to be sterile, unable to reproduce, but they find other ways to be fathers and brothers and uncles. The sight of a clone trooper teaching a child to throw a ball, or reading bedtime stories, or simply being present and loving, becomes one of the new galaxy's most powerful images. The Jedi Order's transformation is equally profound. The Coruscant Temple, damaged during the clone attack but never abandoned, becomes a museum and meditation center open to the public. Visitors can walk its halls, learn its history, understand what the Jedi once were, and what they're becoming. The new enclaves spread across the galaxy are smaller, more intimate. Instead of thousands of Jedi in one location, each enclave hosts perhaps a dozen, maybe 24 at most. They live among the communities they serve, not above them in grand temples. On Tatooine, a Jedi enclave works to combat slavery and help freed slaves build new lives. The irony isn't lost on Anakin, who visits regularly and uses his own history to connect with people escaping bondage. He doesn't lecture or preach. He just helps, using the Force and his skills to make practical differences in individual lives. On Ryloth, Jedi work with the Twi'lek resistance to eliminate remaining slavery operations and rebuild communities devastated by war. On Lothal, they help farmers and establish schools. On Mandalore, they work carefully with the warrior culture, finding ways to honor both Jedi and Mandalorian traditions. The training of younglings changes completely. Instead of taking children away from their families at birth, the new protocol involves family partnerships. Younglings spend time at enclaves, learning Force techniques, but they go home regularly. Their families are involved in their education, understanding what their children are learning and why. Some families struggle with this. The idea of their child being powerful in the Force can be frightening. But Jedi like Ahsoka and younger masters who grew up in the Reformed Order excel at family counseling, helping parents understand that Force sensitivity is a gift, not a curse, and that their children can have normal, healthy lives while also being Jedi. Padawan training also evolves. The Master-Padawan bond remains, but it's less about absolute obedience and more about mentorship and guidance. Padawans are encouraged to question, to think critically, to challenge their masters when they disagree. It makes training more difficult, more complicated, but it produces Jedi who are engaged with the world rather than isolated from it. The most controversial change is the acceptance of attachment. The old prohibition, the source of so much secrecy and pain, is replaced with a more nuanced philosophy. Possessive attachment, attachment that leads to fear of loss and controlling behavior, is still recognized as a path to the dark side. But healthy relationships, love that respects autonomy and celebrates connection, are seen as expressions of the Force itself. Anakin and Padme become the test case for this philosophy. They have arguments, they disagree, they struggle with the challenges of balancing public service with family life. But their relationship is strong, built on mutual respect and honest communication. And crucially, Anakin never falls to darkness because of his love for her. If anything, that love anchors him to the light. Luke and Leia grow up on Coruscant, in an apartment that's comfortable but not ostentatious. They attend regular schools alongside other children, though their Force sensitivity becomes apparent early. Luke is quiet and contemplative, preferring meditation and study. Leia is fierce and outspoken, already showing signs of her mother's political acumen at age 5. Both children begin Force training with their father and other Jedi Masters, but it's integrated into their normal lives. They have friends who aren't Force sensitive. They play games, get into trouble, have crushes, experience all the normal aspects of childhood. They're not separated from the world or told their emotions are dangerous. They're taught to understand their feelings, to process them healthily, to use them as information rather than being controlled by them. When Luke accidentally uses the Force to cheat at a game with his friends, it's Anakin who sits him down for a serious talk about ethics and responsibility. Not about suppressing his abilities, but about using them wisely and fairly. Luke cries, apologizes to his friends, and learns a lesson that sticks with him for life. When Leia gets into a fight at school defending a smaller child from bullies, it's Padme who helps her process the anger and the instinct to protect. They talk about justice and proportionality, about standing up for others without losing yourself to rage. Leia listens, argues back, but ultimately understands. The twins' childhood is documented in holo photos that Padme keeps obsessively. Anakin playing with toy starfighters with Luke. Padme reading to Leia before bed. The whole family on vacation on Naboo, swimming in the lakes. Birthday parties with cake and too much sugar, and the house full of laughter. Normal moments that would have been impossible in the old galaxy. In the dark timeline where Anakin fell and Padme died. Sometimes, on quiet nights, after the children are asleep, Anakin and Padme sit together and talk about alternate paths. What if he had made different choices? What if Palpatine had succeeded? Padme always tells him the same thing. You chose the light. You chose us. That's all that matters. But not everything in the galaxy is peaceful. Crime syndicates, like the Hutt cartel, still operate in the Outer Rim, exploiting the reduced military presence to expand their operations. The Pike Syndicate traffics in spice and slaves. Black Sun runs extortion and assassination rings. These organizations test the new government's ability to maintain order without becoming tyrannical. The solution comes through cooperation between Jedi, local security forces, and investigative agencies with strong civilian oversight. Instead of sending in the military to occupy entire sectors, targeted operations dismantle specific criminal networks. It's slower, more methodical, but it's also more effective and less prone to abuse. Anakin leads several of these operations, working with former clone troopers and local law enforcement to take down slave markets and spice refineries. His personal investment in ending slavery drives him, but he's learned to channel his anger productively. He doesn't slaughter his enemies or give in to rage. He outsmarts them, dismantles their operations piece by piece, and brings them to justice through legal channels. Obi-Wan joins him on many of these missions, the two friends working together as smoothly as they did during the Clone Wars, but without the weight of military command. Their partnership becomes legendary again. But this time, the legends are about liberation and justice rather than military victories. Ahsoka finds her own path, establishing a network of Jedi who work specifically with marginalized communities, former slaves, refugees, displaced populations, anyone the galaxy's systems tend to overlook. She becomes known as the people's Jedi. And her work inspires younger Jedi to follow similar paths. Sith cultists present another challenge. Deprived of Palpatine's leadership, but not of the dark side's seductive promises, small groups emerge, attempting to continue the Sith legacy. They're not as powerful or organized as the Sith of old, but they're dangerous enough to require attention. The Jedi's response to these cultists reveals how much the Order has changed. Instead of simply hunting them down and imprisoning them, Jedi like Quinlan Vos and reformed former Darksiders work on rehabilitation. They understand that the dark side often hooks people during moments of pain and desperation, and that addressing those underlying issues is more effective than simple punishment. Not all cultists can be saved. Some are too far gone, too committed to power and domination. Those individuals are stopped, legally tried, and imprisoned. But many, especially younger followers who were recruited during vulnerable moments, are helped back to the light. It's slow work, frustrating work, but it reduces the dark side's influence more effectively than combat ever could. One major threat emerges about 3 years after Palpatine's death. A group of former Imperial loyalists, including some of Palpatine's personal staff who escaped initial investigations, attempt to resurrect his plans. They discover one of his hidden bases on Exegol, a dark side nexus in the unknown regions, and try to use the Sith artifacts stored there to create a new empire. The threat is serious enough that it requires a coordinated response. The new Senate authorizes a mission, but it's led by Jedi and supported by volunteers from the reformed military, rather than being a military operation with Jedi attachments. The distinction matters, signaling that the galaxy has learned from its mistakes. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and a team of Jedi Masters travel to Exegol. The planet is a nightmare, soaked in dark side energy, lightning-scarred skies, and ancient Sith architecture. The Loyalists have established a base in one of Palpatine's fortresses, using his notes and recordings to try to continue his work. The confrontation is intense. The Loyalists have activated Sith alchemy experiments, creating twisted dark side creatures to defend the base. The Jedi fight through these abominations, their lightsabers cutting through flesh and darkness. But they're careful not to give in to hate or anger, even in the face of such horrors. In the fortress's heart, they find Palpatine's holographic recordings, the dead Sith Lord lecturing about his plans, his philosophies, his contingencies. Seeing him again, even as a recording, sends chills through Anakin. This is the man who nearly destroyed him, who manipulated him for years, who tried to turn him into a monster. One of the Loyalists, a former Imperial advisor named Gallius Rax, tries to use Palpatine's recordings to intimidate the Jedi. You think you've won? You think killing him ended anything? The Emperor's work will continue. His vision will be realized. Order will be imposed on this chaos you call democracy. Anakin steps forward, his lightsaber ignited but held in a non-aggressive stance. I stood right next to your Emperor when he died. I watched the light leave his eyes. And you know what I felt through the Force in his final moments? Not triumph, not satisfaction that his plans were succeeding, just shock, disbelief that he could fail. He never prepared for this because he never truly believed it was possible. His arrogance was his downfall. And it'll be yours too, if you follow his path. Rax sneers. Big words from the Jedi, who nearly became his apprentice. We all know Palpatine almost turned you. What makes you think you're so different from us? Because I chose differently when it mattered most. And I choose differently every single day. Anakin's voice is calm, certain. The dark side is always there, always whispering. But I don't listen. I have a wife I love, children I'm raising, friends I trust, and work that matters. That's a stronger foundation than any promise of power. The Jedi capture the Loyalists, destroy Palpatine's artifacts and notes, and purge the Exegol base of dark side corruption. It's painstaking work, requiring multiple Jedi working together to cleanse the tainted ground. But when they're finished, the planet feels lighter, as if a weight has been lifted from the Force itself. On the flight back to Coruscant, Ahsoka sits with Anakin in the ship's common area. That must have been hard, being back on Exegol. Hearing his voice again, Anakin nods slowly. Harder than I expected. Part of me still feels the pull. You know, the dark side doesn't just go away. It's always there, whispering about power and control, and how I could protect everyone I love if I just embraced it. But you don't. No. Because I learned something Palpatine never understood. You can't protect people by controlling them. You can't save them by dominating them. Real love, real protection, means trusting them to make their own choices, even when those choices scare you, even when those choices might lead to loss. Anakin smiles sadly. Padme taught me that. So did you. In your own way. When you left the Order, I'm glad I helped with something other than getting you into trouble. Ahsoka grins, and the moment of tension passes. The mission's success proves that the new galactic order can handle serious threats without sliding back into militarization or authoritarianism. It's a key test passed, and it strengthens public confidence in the Concordat government. Yoda, watching all these developments from his various training centers and meditation retreats, feels a sense of peace he hasn't known in centuries. The Jedi Order failed, he reflects. But from that failure comes growth. The galaxy suffered, but from that suffering comes wisdom. Always in motion, the future is but brighter now than it has been in a millennium. In his final years, Yoda doesn't hide on Dagobah in exile. Instead, he travels the galaxy, visiting Jedi enclaves, offering wisdom to young Jedi facing challenges, meditating in places strong in the Force. He becomes less a leader giving orders and more a teacher offering guidance. It's a role that suits him far better. On one such visit to the Dagobah system, which he chose for its strong Force presence and natural beauty rather than as a hiding place, Yoda meditates deeply on the nature of the Force. He has visions not of dark futures this time, but of paths not taken. He sees the galaxy as it would have been if Anakin had fallen. Empire, rebellion, Death Star, Vader, hunting his own children. It's a nightmare timeline. And Yoda is profoundly grateful it never came to pass. When he emerges from his meditation, Anakin is there, having sensed through the Force that Yoda needed to see him. The Grandmaster and the Chosen One sit together in Dagobah's swamps, watching native creatures go about their lives. The prophecy, Anakin says quietly, about bringing balance to the Force. Do you think I fulfilled it? Yoda's ears twitch thoughtfully. The prophecy, misinterpreted it was, I think. Believed we did that balance meant destroying the Sith. Simple, that would have been. Neat. But the Force, simple, it is not. Balance comes not from destruction, but from understanding. From accepting both light and dark exist, while choosing always to walk in the light. That doesn't really answer my question, Master. Destroyed the Sith, you did. Killed Palpatine, you did. But more importantly, changed the Jedi, you did. Showed us that attachment need not lead to darkness. That love can be a source of strength rather than weakness. That balance comes from engagement, not detachment. Yoda looks at Anakin with ancient, knowing eyes. Fulfilled the prophecy. You have, but not in the way anyone expected. Brought balance not through destruction, but through transformation. Anakin considers this. I still feel the dark side sometimes. I still get angry, still want to control things, still fear losing the people I love. Does that mean I'm failing? Mean you are alive? It does. Mean you are human? It does. Yoda's voice is warm, compassionate. The dark side, a part of the Force, it is. Deny it, we cannot. But give into it, we must not. Feel anger, you will. Experience fear, you will. But let these emotions control you, you must not. Channel them wisely, you must. This, the true balance is. Before Yoda dies peacefully in his sleep at age 906, he has one final conversation with Anakin and the other senior Jedi. He speaks about the Force's nature, about the wills and the cosmic force, about the living legacy the Jedi must leave. His final words are simple but profound. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. Judge us by our size, do you? And well you should not, for the Force is in all things, connects all things. Serve the Force, we do, by serving those around us. Remember this, you must. Teach it, you must. And strong the Jedi will be. He passes peacefully, his body fading into the Force and becoming one with it. The funeral is attended by thousands, Jedi from every enclave, senators and citizens who were touched by his wisdom, even clones who served under him during the war. Now free men paying respects to a being who treated them with dignity and care. Anakin speaks at the funeral, his voice carrying across the gathered mourners. Master Yoda spent 9 centuries learning, teaching, growing. He saw the Jedi at their height and at their lowest point. He acknowledged his failures, our failures, and dedicated his final years to ensuring we never repeated them. He taught me that being the chosen one wasn't about destiny or fate. It was about choice, about choosing the light every single day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Obi-Wan adds his own remembrance. He was the wisest being I ever knew, and the most humble. He could have blamed others for the Jedi's fall. Instead, he looked inward, questioned everything he thought he knew, and found the strength to change. That's his greatest lesson to us. It's never too late to grow. It's never too late to be better than you were. After Yoda's death, Mace Windu assumes informal leadership of the Jedi Order, though the new structure deliberately avoids concentrating power in any one individual. A council still exists, but it's advisory rather than authoritative. Each enclave operates with significant autonomy, connected by shared philosophy and mutual support rather than top-down control. Mace's transformation from the rigid, uncompromising master who nearly drove Anakin away to a wise, flexible leader who embraces change becomes one of the New Order's defining stories. He openly discusses his mistakes, his arrogance, his failure to see Palpatine's darkness. This vulnerability makes him more effective as a teacher, not less. Padme serves multiple terms in the Reformed Senate, becoming one of its most respected voices. She drafts legislation protecting clone rights, ensuring fair treatment for refugees and displaced populations, regulating corporate power, and strengthening democratic institutions. Her work isn't glamorous, but it's foundational. She's building the structures that will prevent another Palpatine from rising. When she finally retires from active politics, it's to focus on writing and teaching. She authors a comprehensive history of the Clone Wars, the fall of the Old Republic, and the rise of the Concordat. The book becomes required reading in schools across the galaxy, ensuring future generations understand how democracy can be lost and how it can be saved. Her relationship with Anakin remains strong through the years. They have arguments, of course, disagreements about parenting, about politics, about how to handle specific situations. But they always come back to the foundation of respect and love that brought them together. They're partners in the truest sense, supporting each other's work while maintaining their own identities. Their children watch this partnership and learn from it. Luke sees how his parents negotiate, how they compromise, how they support each other, even when they disagree. It shapes his understanding of relationships and conflict resolution. Leia sees her mother's strength and her father's vulnerability, learning that power comes in many forms and that admitting weakness isn't the same as being weak. As Luke and Leia grow older, their Force abilities develop differently. Luke becomes fascinated with the ancient Jedi texts, with understanding the Force's mysteries, with meditation and contemplation. He has his father's power but his mother's thoughtfulness. By his teenage years, he's already discussing Force philosophy with masters twice his age, asking questions that challenge assumptions and push understanding forward. Leia's connection to the Force is equally strong but expressed differently. She uses it intuitively in her political work, sensing people's emotions and motivations, knowing when someone is lying or when they can be trusted. She follows her mother into politics, but with Force sensitivity adding another dimension to her already formidable skills. By 20, she's a senator herself, representing Naboo and quickly becoming a voice for reform and justice. Both twins know their father's history. Anakin never hides it from them. He tells them about his childhood as a slave, about the Jedi finding him, about the Clone Wars, and most importantly, about how Palpatine nearly turned him. He explains the visions of their mother dying, the fear and anger that almost consumed him, and the choice he made to reject the darkness. The conversations are difficult, especially for young children trying to understand concepts like the dark side and temptation. But Anakin believes in honesty. He wants his children to understand that everyone faces darkness, everyone is tempted, and that choosing the light isn't a one-time decision but a constant practice. Luke takes these lessons to heart, developing a philosophy of the Force that synthesizes his father's experiences with ancient Jedi wisdom and new insights. He begins writing about what he calls the living Force, building on Qui-Gon Jinn's teachings and Yoda's reforms. His writings become influential in shaping the next generation of Jedi thinking. Leia uses the lessons differently. In her political work, she's constantly aware of how power can corrupt, how fear can be weaponized, how democracy requires constant vigilance. She becomes known for her uncompromising stance on accountability and transparency, refusing to let the galaxy slip back into the complacency that allowed Palpatine to rise. The galaxy 10 years after Palpatine's death is unrecognizable from what it would have been. There is no empire, no Death Star being constructed in secret, no rebellion forming to fight against tyranny, no Vader hunting surviving Jedi across the stars. Instead, there's a messy, complicated, often frustrating democracy that actually functions. Problems still exist. Inequality persists in many sectors. Crime syndicates adapt and evolve. Disputes between worlds occasionally escalate into armed conflicts. The galaxy is far from perfect, but the fundamental structures of power have changed. No one person can seize control. No military can impose its will on civilians. No Sith Lord can manipulate everyone from the shadows. The Jedi, reformed and humble, serve the galaxy without seeking to control it. The clones, freed and recognized as people, build lives they were never supposed to have. The government, checked and balanced, represents its citizens rather than exploiting them. Hope, real hope, exists for the future. Obi-Wan lives long enough to see most of these developments, his final years spent training new Jedi and enjoying the peace he fought so hard to achieve. Before he dies, he has a final conversation with Anakin, the Padawan who became his brother, his friend, and ultimately his equal. "I'm proud of you, you know," Obi-Wan says. They're sitting on a balcony overlooking Coruscant, watching the sunset paint the city in orange and gold. "When I first met you, you were this angry, powerful, unpredictable boy. I thought training you might be the biggest mistake of my life. I was certain you'd bring disaster. You weren't entirely wrong," Anakin points out with a wry smile. "I did cause quite a bit of trouble, but you also saved us all. Killed the Sith Lord, ended the war, changed the Jedi Order, raised 2 incredible children, built a life that proves the old ways were wrong." Obi-Wan's voice is warm with affection. "Qui-Gon believed in you from the moment he met you. I wish he could have lived to see you prove him right. I think about him sometimes. What he would say about all this. About the new Jedi Order. About Luke and Leia. About everything. He'd say we finally learned to listen. To really listen. Not just to the Force, but to the people around us. To the galaxy we're supposed to serve." Obi-Wan pauses, gathering his thoughts. "The old Jedi were so certain we had all the answers. That certainty made us blind. But you, Anakin, you were never certain. You questioned everything, doubted everything, struggled with everything. We saw that as a weakness. Turns out, it was your greatest strength. I still question things, still doubt, still struggle. Good. The day you stop questioning is the day you become what Palpatine wanted to make you. Stay uncertain, my friend. Stay humble. Keep struggling. That's how you stay in the light." Those are Obi-Wan's final words of wisdom to Anakin. Days later, he dies peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by people who love him. His funeral is smaller than Yoda's, but no less meaningful. The Jedi who trained under him, the clones who served with him, the friends who relied on him, all come to pay respects to a man who embodied the best of what a Jedi could be. Anakin speaks at this funeral too, his voice thick with emotion. He was my master, my friend, my brother. He never gave up on me, even when I gave him every reason to. He taught me that being a Jedi wasn't about power or abilities. It was about service, compassion, and choosing to do what's right, even when it costs you everything. I'll miss him every day for the rest of my life. Luke and Leia, now teenagers, stand beside their father, supporting him through his grief. They never knew Obi-Wan as Uncle Obi-Wan, the way they might have in another timeline, where he would have been their secret guardian on Tatooine. Instead, they knew him as a present, active part of their lives, a beloved family friend who taught them about the Force and told them stories about their father's adventures. The galaxy continues to evolve. Former separatist worlds thrive under their chosen governments, proving that independence doesn't have to mean isolation or conflict. The Reformed Republic demonstrates that democracy can function even after catastrophic failure if people commit to learning from mistakes. Trade routes reopen, economies recover, art and culture flourish in ways they couldn't during wartime. Universities and libraries expand. Scientific advancement accelerates without being focused solely on military applications. The galaxy breathes and grows and lives. 20 years after Palpatine's death, Anakin Skywalker stands in a Jedi enclave on Coruscant, teaching a class of younglings about the Force, not Force combat, not military tactics, but Force connection, Force empathy, Force healing. He shows them how to sense the life around them, how to connect with the living Force that flows through all things. The younglings are diverse, from dozens of different species and hundreds of different worlds. Some came from wealthy families, others from poor ones. Some are human, others are Twi'leks, Togruta, Rhodians, Wookiees. But in the Force, they're all the same, all connected, all part of something larger than themselves. One youngling, a small human girl from Tatooine, asks a question that makes Anakin smile. Master Skywalker, is it true you were a slave? That you grew up on Tatooine like me? It's true, Anakin confirms. I grew up in Mos Espa, worked in a junk shop. Never thought I'd leave that planet. But the Force had other plans. And now I get to help free other slaves, help other children from Tatooine find better lives. The past doesn't define us. Our choices define us. The youngling considers this seriously. So, I could become a Jedi Master too? Even though I'm from Tatooine? Especially because you're from Tatooine. You understand what it means to suffer, to struggle, to hope for something better. That understanding will make you a compassionate Jedi, a Jedi who really connects with the people you're supposed to serve. After the class, Anakin walks home to the apartment he shares with Padme. It's the same apartment where they lived when the twins were born, now feeling slightly empty with Luke and Leia pursuing their own paths. But Anakin and Padme have adapted, finding new ways to spend their time, new causes to champion, new meaning in their work. Padme is home when Anakin arrives, working on her latest book, a memoir about her experiences during the Clone Wars and the formation of the Concordat. She looks up when he enters, smiling in the way that still makes his heart skip a beat after all these years. How was teaching? Good. Tiring, but good. One of the younglings reminded me so much of myself at that age. Full of questions, uncertain about everything, desperate to prove herself. Anakin settles beside Padme on the couch, leaning into her familiar warmth. Sometimes, I can't believe this is my life. Teaching Jedi, raising children who are safe and happy, growing old with you. It feels like a dream. If it's a dream, let's never wake up. Padme kisses him softly. You earned this, Ani. We all did. The galaxy earned peace, and we get to enjoy it. Sometimes I dream about the other path, the one where I fell, where I became Vader, where I lost you, lost everything. Those dreams feel so real, like I'm seeing an alternate timeline. But that's not this timeline. You chose differently. You choose differently every day. Padme takes his hand, feeling the warm flesh and the cool metal, both parts of the man she loves. The dark side will always be there, always whispering. But you don't listen. You never listen. That's who you are. They sit together in comfortable silence, watching the Coruscant sunset. And Anakin reflects on the path his life has taken. He killed the Sith Lord who would have destroyed the galaxy. He helped end a war. He reformed the Jedi Order. He married the woman he loves and raised 2 children who will change the galaxy in their own ways. But more than any of those accomplishments, he chose the light when it mattered most. And he keeps choosing it every single day. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.